I'll take two questions and then we'll have both of them reply.
My name is Dr. Shafik from South Asia, West London. My question is, if the UN report, no one went to the Valley of Kashmir to compile it or interview people, then what are the basis of that? Is it what are the sources? Is it those people who come here and present a Pakistani point of view and compile their own sort of stories, what has happened or what is happening there? Are there some other sources? Because I have also written on that because I thought it was not representing me as a Kashmiri and it's not representing many other people. Thank you.
Gentlemen, and then we'll go through some answers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Junaid and I'm here and I do represent United Kashmir People's National Party. My question to Mr. Professor, that Pakistan has diverted one of our major river. It is known as River Neelum in Muzaffarabad, which is the capital of Pakistan Administered Kashmir. Under what law, under what international law Pakistan can do so, or how we can prevent Pakistan by depriving the people of lower riparian areas from the basic water needs and producing electricity for its own need, and by depriving the people of Pakistani Administered Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan as well. So thank you.
Well, I think anyone who would like to try, whoever it is, I think Mr. Stott concentrated that more on that, please.
Yes, I mean the question on the sources that are used in the report, Prince Hussain does cover that, and really argues that he wasn't able to visit either Indian-controlled or Pakistani-controlled Kashmir, so he's used what he refers to as public sources, so information from NGOs and articles online, etc., etc. Now, that doesn't mean that information is weak, it doesn't mean it's strong necessarily either. This isn't an investigation.
Correct either.
Yeah, this isn't an investigation at the level of, for example, a good quality police investigation. It's far short of that.
Yeah, one point for me to make, I would like to say that if the previous High Commissioner for Human Rights has used online articles and remotely monitored the situation, I think he has failed in producing a balanced report, because the information which is brought to this council during these sessions from people from Pakistan Administered Kashmir with great risk to their lives and their family back home, that has been totally disregarded. So if it's done on remotely monitoring, he could have used so much information which everyone brings here. I think there is a huge community of Kashmiris here who represents the whole state of Jammu and Kashmir and not just regional issues. Anyone else? One last question and then I think we'll have to finish. Mr. Sajid, and if you have time, please use it.
Actually, my question is to MP. We Kashmiris were very happy when Imran Kilson compiled a very detailed report on Kashmir after so many decades. So we are based in Brussels and we are representative of United Kashmir People's National Party, and we have not seen any follow-up on that report. So is European Parliament is going to take any follow-up or fact-finding mission? That report covers all that areas, terrorism, proxy politics, each and everything.
Gentlemen, over there, one question and then we'll try to answer.
Yes, just a small brief question. I just wish to know whether there is a difference between freedom fighters and terrorists, because generally we have states who tag freedom fighters as terrorists. Is there a difference?
The first question I'd like to give to Jason, and the second question, I'm not going to burn my hands on that. I'll leave that to the scholar at my left to give a definition of that.
I'll be very brief. For starters, I'm not a member of the European Parliament. I'm an advisor. And the short answer is I can come back to you with an answer relatively soon. If you want to exchange cards afterwards, I'm happy to follow up for you, because at this point I don't have an answer for you.
Thank you. For the freedom fighter and the terrorist, I would like to give it to Mr. Postot. I would like to make my position clear. Anyone who uses violence, for me, that's a terrorist. There is no difference. Anyone who uses violence, who kills innocent people because of a religion, because of a political ideology, because of a belief, for me, I consider him a terrorist. But that's my opinion. You might differ, and Mr. Postot might give you a more scholarly opinion.
Very quickly, I didn't reply to the question on water security.
Yes.
This is an area that people have been increasingly concerned about. However, there's a long history of concern about water security without it necessarily leading to conflict directly. So I think it's one of those areas where states tend to eventually come to their senses with one another, and there's obviously a role for institutions like the UN on that. On the freedom fighters versus terrorists debate, this is an extremely old question. And for any student coming to terrorism studies, we always ask what's the difference between a freedom fighter or a terrorist. And you have this cliche of one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. In a way, I'd like to turn it round by asking, by what moral rights do people have to bring the gun into politics? And it's much more clearly set out in terms of the nation states than it is with a group of self-declared actors. And even more so when you've got a group of self-declared actors who are dependent on another state to support them. So I think the categorisation of terrorist needed to go in that UN report.
I will take the liberty, because there is another event at 5. I don't see them yet, so I'll take liberty to take another question of my my teacher, old friend, old family friend, Mr. Pandita, who is he doesn't need an introduction for the people who know him, but who don't know him. A researcher, a scholar, was head of department of the Kashmir University for Central Asian Studies, is a Kashmiri Pandit. Please, sir.
Yes. I just would like to make one comment. I would have appreciated if anybody had spoken elaborately on non-state actors as terrorists, because states which are sponsoring terrorists claim that they are non-state actors. So I am unable to understand how can a man who is a citizen of a particular state and who is a terrorist, a virtual terrorist, yet the state disowns him by categorizing him as non-state actor. Thank you very much.
Maybe Mrs. Stott can explain that. I can try to do it, but I do not want to get in a position to elaborate on something which you have raised. I think I will fail in that. So.
I mean, just briefly, historically, there are very few terrorist groups which last a long time without some degree of state support or connivance. So even in Northern Ireland, a group like the IRA needed to be able to cross the border into the Irish Republic, where they could get away from the British authorities, get away from the British police, and where usually the Irish Republic wouldn't extradite people back who were charged with criminal offences in Northern Ireland. And if we look at some of the jihadist Islamist actors, again, at vital times there's been a degree of state support. And I would remain extremely suspicious, for example, of how Osama bin Laden came to be living in Abbottabad. Would be just one example.
Jason would also like to make a comment on this.
Yeah, just to build upon your point, one of the bigger concerns that we're struggling with now is the development of what we consider hybrid terrorist organizations. And what this means is these are organizations that are conducting terrorist activity, promoting terrorist activity, supporting terrorist activity, while at the same time claiming that they're a legitimate organization because in certain cases they have some degree of social services they're providing to a local community, that they have some degree of political representation. And if you're to ask me which one I think is more dangerous, I would say hybrid terrorist organizations. Why? Because they deceive the world. This is a major concern that we're faced with, and I think it's supremely important to have relevant forums such as this to address this issue.